Good morning, folks. We are revisiting the edges first technique that I have come to love. I will warn, this is not a technique you want to use for speed solving, although it has been the technique that I've been able to do the fastest. I think it's just because I'm more experienced and I can recognize what I need to do next a lot faster, so I'm pausing a lot less than like with Ru or CFOP or corners first, although Ru is better than corners first. Very similar. This is similar to CFOP. Ru is similar to corners first. Anyway, this is... now let me backtrack real quick. We're not going to get into how to do the edges, portion of the edges first. That's usually considered the easiest part. So all of these edges. That's considered the easiest part of the method. The more difficult part is solving the corners. If you have time, then you can usually plan out some really efficient solutions. So it is used in fewest moves competitions, but it's very variable. You could get lucky if you're trying to go through fast, and you could get a really efficient solution. You could destroy your personal best if you want to. Frequently, however, you're going to get a bad situation where inspection would save you a move count, but it takes a while to inspect and decide on what the best course of action is. So, to solve corners, we're going to make use of something like this. It is a sexy move. I do it with the D layer and the R layer. That's just because that's what I learned initially with the 8355 technique. You could do that. You could interchange basically any two layers that are connected to each other. But this is what I'm physically more comfortable with. I've been trying to get better with others. But what I want to show is that if you do something like D prime, R prime, D, it is moving this corner up here. So, and whatever was facing this way, so in this case red, is now going to be up top facing up. So, and then the inverse of that, you're going to be looking at what's facing this way to go on top. So it's going to be an R prime, D prime, RD. So these are inverses of each other. That's why we have the prime notation. I'm calling this chunk A and this chunk A prime. Next thing that we'll get into is if you do this a multiple of 3 times, either one, you're going to be ending up with the same result. It's going to mutate these for corners. And in particular, these corners are going to be swapped. They're going to be facing opposite directions. So this had a green face on top, so the green is facing the opposite direction entirely. And same with the blue and the blue. And these corners, same situation. They are going to be swapped, and their faces are going to be going the exact opposite direction. So if I do it 3 more times, I end up with nothing. When you do it 3 times, it is key to note that no edges are affected. It's just corners that are affected, which is great if you've already solved all the edges and you don't want to destroy that. So when you're solving, what you'll do is keep a counter, kind of. So if you do an A, you're going to add 1 to your counter. If you do an A prime, you're going to subtract 1. And that's where you're going to be looking for a multiple of 3 or 6. So you'll know you're done when you hit like a 0 or 3 or a 6 or anything like that. And then you can reset your counter. That's what I do mentally. I do it 3 times if the cube is looking kind of scrambled and I want to just mess with as many corners as I can. If the cube is looking pretty good, I will reset it to a 0 or a 6. So some multiple of 6. So let's take a look at an example solve and let's see if we can use some techniques. Oh, I guess I never explained. We do have a commutator. That's just, it naturally comes out of this. You're going to be putting a corner into place, and then you're going to be rotating this U layer to find a corner that needs to be pulled out. So you basically do an A, some U move, A prime, and you could technically do the inverse of whatever U move you did. I usually don't, because I'm usually fiddling with a bunch of turns, so I just leave the U layer alone. technically that wouldn't be a commutator, but you're basically doing the commutator and then canceling it back out. Yeah, so back to scrambling. I'm going to solve this. It's not going to be super quick because I am not an efficient solver. I did a cross there, and you don't have to align these. They're useful if you want to guide yourself, but it's not necessary. I like to do it because it is very warm today and my brain is slow. So I'm not going to explain why I solved the edges like that or what the tricks were behind that. You can look into the 8355 beginner technique, and that will get you comfortable with solving like the last layer and the missing corner. Yeah, so now we are in a situation where I want to put this piece with the yellow facing up over to here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this up here. It's going to bump this down here. Then I'm going to undo the move. When I undo, I'm going to pop it back over here. So, and then we're going to start another chain in this case. So I start with this D prime, R, D, R, and now I've put this piece into the right location, pulled out the bad piece. I'm going to do a U2 to put this into position. Now I'm going to start with an A prime. So I did an A, now I'm going to do an A prime, and those are going to cancel out essentially and fix all the broken edges. So technically I don't need to do that. But yeah, so edges are all back to being fixed, and now we can begin the next fun. Now, if you're doing this fast, you're probably not going to be rotating the cube and looking at it. When you're doing it fun, you're going to be rotating the cube and looking at it. So, as I was talking, I noticed there's an orange edge over here, and this orange is out of place. So I'm just going to rotate it and pop this into place. So, same situation, except kind of the inverse. I'm going to do A prime and then an A. So, A prime to pop it into place, and A to put that broken cube into place. So there we solved, what, 2 edges at the same time in the same composite set of moves. So similar situation here. We're going to pop you into there. I don't know why my brain got mixed up there. And now we are left with 2 corners that need to be solved. And these are always a fun case. I don't know how to describe how I eventually got to these algorithms. I started out doing something like keeping these aligned on the same top layer because I figured out how to do these. Then I realized my first step is going to be doing that. So why waste it? This is just going to start partway through an A prime, and then you're going to skip some moves in the A. So it turns into a quick set of moves. You're going to do 2 A primes followed by 2 A's, but you're going to be doing a U move in between. So that is a solution, and I don't know if there was anything else I wanted to discuss. Oh, I will say, one of the reasons I prefer to start with an A prime, one of the reasons there is if you do an R prime, D prime, R, D, and then you're going to put some moves in here that don't affect a D, usually that's what's going to end up happening, then this is your A prime, you're going to end up doing an A next. So you've got your D prime, R prime, D, R. Because this didn't affect you, or didn't affect the D layer, you can just cancel those out. So you save a couple moves if you start with the A prime. Although I guess, yeah, now that I look at it, if you start with an A, you can cancel out an R if you're not affecting the R layer. So it'll be something I need to note. So I guess if I'm fiddling with the L side of things, then that would be perfect. But I rarely do L's, I do U's. So I always start with an A prime, followed by an A, if I can. There we go.